Have you ever experienced doubts about deserving your success? Do you find yourself initiating projects but struggling to complete them? Or do you ever feel stuck or hesitate to share your work with others? This is exactly what our audience is going through. And it goes like this, that I may appear confident, but I often doubt myself. How can I overcome these feelings of imposter syndrome?
Yeah,
Yeah, what's your take on this, Diana?
I think I like definition. I always start with definition because people have different understanding of what imposter syndrome really means, right? But I think to begin, feeling like an imposter is a common for all of us, even for the most successful people, they experience imposter syndrome. But the difference often lies in how we respond when our imposter shows up. So, so when for me, when I think about my imposter, it's often that when I feel like a fraud or I doubt my abilities, even when I have plenty of evidence that I'm successful and I'm competent. It's that nagging feeling that you're telling you that you're not capable, you're not good enough, you have to wait, you have to perfect everything before allow yourself to show up. And often it's like that voice in our head that sooner or later people are going to find out who you are, who truly are,
Yeah.
um, and that you're really not what you say you are. So often imposter syndrome kicks in because we see our skills not matching the reality, right? So you might have a lot of achievement and positive feedbacks, but still feel like you don't deserve it. And often this happens when you take on a new role or a new challenge or a tough project, often for me, um, or work with high achievers. So you start to compare yourself. Um, but the question is, how do we overcome this feeling, right? This client is saying, like, how do I overcome this feeling? I don't think the aim is to overcome it. I think the aim is to understand and befriend it. Because the word
Love that.
overcome, yeah, the word overcome implies to defeat, what else? To conquer, or to triumph in resolving all the
Mm.
challenges. So I don't believe we ever fully overcome imposter syndrome because as we grow and evolve, our imposter parts will always be there to remind us and check our alignment, right? So understanding and befriending our imposter syndrome means recognizing when these feelings arise in us and
Mm.
we explore the root causes. It's about acknowledging that these thoughts are part of our internal dialogue, and it does not define who we are and our actual abilities or worth. Because when we gain insight into why we feel imposter, we can start to address the underlying issues and
Mm.
change our response to those feelings. So you can't change what you don't acknowledge, right? So I think that's the first step for me. What's your take?
I love that. I love the part that you understand and befriend it rather than overcome it. I think the feeling of, the word overcome comes because the feeling is so intense. It almost paralyzes people, right? It keeps you stuck. And when you're stuck, most people, they just want to run away, or and that's why the dialogue could be very negative, right? You're almost fighting in your own head. because that's the self-talk, very negative, that, or you can't do this, or you know, people will ridicule you, or that's not good enough. And these are the internal dialogues. But I like your perspective, your take on it, because now it's almost seeing it as having a friendly conversation, just as you would have a conversation with a friend. And if the friend is being so negative and they're scared, they want to run away, how are now you going to talk to that friend?
You know, imposter syndrome is really common, and it is shared experiences. So this could be the first step in addressing it, right? That you are not unique, or your voices in your head is not unique. The critic in your head is not unique. The fear you experience is not unique. We all experience it. So if we know that we all have this in us, we can start to step back a little bit and reflect on our actual abilities, because this is all caused by cognitive distortion, right? So we can help become more aware our parts. We can help them correct these dialogue and self-talk through self-awareness and using the right strategies. So when we say like understanding these parts, it usually just involve observing your imposter syndrome and how they manifest in your body and in your mind. So you notice when you feel tense or anxious or overwhelmed. So you pay attention to your reaction. Do you try to run away from these feelings? Do you bury them? Are you someone who pushes through despite these thoughts and feelings? And then I think once you identify your patterns, you can begin to acknowledge them without judgment, and then allowing yourself to experience them without letting them take over. So when we acknowledge that these imposter parts are within us, we can stop and give ourselves permission to step back, create distance. So you turn towards it, and turn towards the narratives that you're hearing and observe them with compassion and understanding. And I do believe that this process lets us acknowledge that these thoughts and feelings are valid without needing to push them away or let them take over. Because when we approach our parts with empathy and compassion and understanding, we can soften their intensity and uncover the underlying motivation, because our imposter are just always just trying to protect us, right? These are because they have these perceived threats that are trying to help prevent us from getting hurt or from experiencing or reoccurring fears and uncertainty. So through the awareness, we can offer these parts of ourselves some kindness and start integrating tools like cognitive restructuring. So an example of that is really looking at the quality of your self-talk and your narratives. So when you hear, I'm not good enough, you can replace it with, even though I feel like I'm not good enough, I know that I'm learning and I'm growing. So I'm going to find resources on how to get to understand what I need to do to accomplish my goal, right? So this approach really empowers us to navigate the imposter feelings with more resilience and authenticity that is in alignment with what we really want for ourselves, and embrace our capacity to learn and evolve while also acknowledging and honoring our feelings and emotion. And everything that we experience is just parts of our growth, even though we have those narratives.
Yeah, I see it. And these the kind of language and the intensity that it comes to you with, it could be because it was once, it might not be your voice, it feels like it's your voice, but it could be that someone has said something, and now that imposter part of you is trying to protect you from that experience. It thinks that you're going to experience that again. So rather than seeing it as a voice that's so intense and it's trying to really, rip the gut out of you, but really sitting down and seeing it as, ask it, what are you trying to protect me from? Recognize, what is it trying to protect you from? And when you have that answer, acknowledge and say, yeah, validate it. Say, I get it. I see you. I see how you're trying to so hard to protect me from this. And then let it know that, yes, you are taking all the right steps and measures. Even if you don't know right now, let it know, be honest. And say, even though I don't have the answer right now, but I promise you that I'm going to find the answer for it. And that's when your part will start trusting you, knowing that you are trying your best to do what is right for you, and that you're not going to be harmed, and that you're not going to fall and hurt yourself.
And if sometimes our patterns and those thoughts get really incessant and does not want to let go, I think the best way also is to, look at those voices as, and let it know that you are the leader of your system, and say, okay, I know that you're worried, and I know that you don't think that we can manage this, but I am going to drive this bus right now. You can come with me and sit in the back, but let me drive how this project is going to go. And you don't, I understand your fears and I understand your worry, and let me drive this bus, right? And that's usually my conversation with my imposters. Like, I really do hear them. I call it mental gymnastics, and it calculates how we have to move forward with whatever I'm doing. And often I go, okay, I know we're anxious, we're overwhelmed, we're worried. Let me also remind you that I'm more than capable. In the past, I'll show you, if you remember other projects that you've done that you're very successful, and the other parts of you that were brave and courageous, integrate them and realize that you have overcome, or you have tried other things and you were successful in it, and update your system to say, okay, yeah, we've done this before and we can do it again.
What's coming to me is positive self-talk.
Yeah.
That constantly, the positive self-talk, knowing who you are, and reassuring, compassion, self-compassion, knowing that, we have got this. Even if we don't know now, we'll figure it out. And which might also mean to be open to, getting feedback from a mentor or someone you trust, not just going out there and telling everyone that this is my issue, but someone who you could really trust and help you in this journey. Because sometimes being on your own and doing it on your own can be hard.
Yeah, I agree. Here we are. You can Google the types of imposter syndrome. There's a lot of information out there that you can read, a lot of resources to understand and deepen your understanding about imposter syndrome. But if this is something that interests you and you want to have a more in-depth conversation with me and Natasha, please don't hesitate to contact one of us or both of us, and we will do our best to help you out.
Yeah, and be that partner on that journey with you.
Yeah.
If doing it on your own is too scary and too hard.
Exactly. And to remember your journey is one of growth and self-discovery. We're here in this world to really discover who you are and that you are more than your thoughts.
Correct. So with that, we sign off and we'll see you next week. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.